Okay, so today we'll discuss on accrual accounting in public sector and the Malaysian public sector. So this basically an introduction, just general discussion on accrual accounting, then how accounting be adopted in Malaysian government. So what will be the source of accounting standards and others. Okay, accrual for transparency, then we discuss about IPSAS, NPSAS, then accrual accounting in Malaysia. So what's happening there? Right, so if you look at this, could accrual accounting lead to greater transparency and accountability of public sector? So I think that is basically the expectation of introducing accrual accounting. I think, of course, the demand in the parliament as well as the general public that basically give pressure to the government to be more accountable. Okay. And I think Malaysia is also moving towards more mature in the political process. Okay, there was a change of government and others. Okay, so the democratic process very well been practiced. Okay, and with the fact that our government is basically with the check and balance. Okay, with the role of the Agong, the role of Parliament and the executive judiciary. Okay, so basically, I think to a certain extent, they are all functioning. Okay. Recently, there are a corruption case where we held, the minister concerned was found guilty. So all these are basically, to a certain extent, we do should appreciate. I think it's very important to hold the government accountable because we are talking about public money and resources are limited, but there are so many services need to be provided. Okay, what is important? Okay, for the current situation, okay, for instance, like COVID. But at the same time, the government also have to plan for the future. Okay, what happened to Malaysia 20 years, 30 years from now? Okay, on top of addressing the current needs. Okay, accrual for transparency and improve public financial management. The adoption of accrual accounting should lead to greater transparency for the government entities in using of public funds. Some of the implications of the accrual for such purpose are as follows. Okay, with accrual accounting, complete financial statements for each government entity would be prepared, including the statement of financial performance, financial position, and cash flow statements. Okay, so I think the expectation here, not only that the financial statement will be prepared at the government level, okay, for the whole government, each government entity that is previously was prepared under cash accounting. So with accrual, so those entities will also prepare the financial statements under accrual accounting. Okay. Then because of course the government as a whole will be somehow at the macro level, whereas at the agency level definitely there are needs, okay, to prepare their financial statements based on accrual accounting. Okay, because at this point not all government agencies prepare their accounts. That's one. The other is only statutory bodies. Okay, they have their financial statements, but ministries and agencies, okay, the reporting is more on towards the content of the annual reports. That was discussed in the previous class. Okay, accrual accounting would enable the account for liabilities and future commitments with greater accuracy. Okay, that would improve transparency in managing public funds. I think managing debts, definitely government debts, is very important. Because it's related to particularly, for our level of discussion, okay, country rating, okay, by the all international rating, like Fitch, Standard and Poor's, because they all are important. Because at the end, it's about cost of debts that government basically have to pay if they want to raise funds. On the other hand, is of course to attract the international investors to come to the country, as well as to invest in the Malaysian government securities. Okay, they have that implication. With IPSAS, the accounting for assets and liabilities at fair value would improve presentation of government financial standing. Okay, so generally, I think, okay, these are a very general statement. Because IPSAS, the international accounting standard for public sector, for government and public sector organizations, and of course it's equally applicable to all government entities across the globe. right? Of course, with MFRS or IFRS, IFSAs also have specific focus on fair value, okay, in the accounting. Okay, International Public Sector Accounting Standards, IPSAS. Okay, scope of the standards applicable to all public sector entities, including national government, local government, and their components government. So, but not applicable to GLCs or business entities, because GLCs and government business entities, they can use MFRS or IFRS. Okay, so more closely related to them, because they are business entities, and if it is business entities, their main focus would be profit maximization or shareholders' value. Right, so then we look at IFSAS website. Right, is there any? Okay, we can, let me see this one. Okay, so I think we go quickly to IFSAS website. Okay. Right, see, can you see this? Class? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
so these are IFSAS website, okay? I provide the link, okay, you can have a look. So these are source of the standards, okay? So of course these are in the book, So by IFAC, so these are various standards, okay, 2019. They issue, I think, of course, from year to year, they do the latest version. So apparently, based on this website, these are 2019 is the latest. Okay, so based on this, then Malaysian government adopt all the standards into for Malaysian government. Okay, you can download this, okay, but it's quite big. You can download 3 megabyte and all that. Okay, I think for international students, it's good for you to have this copy, so that you never know that when you return to your countries, these are some of the standards you can introduce or you can propose to your government to implement. Once you possibly work either as a public or private accountant or public accountants in public sector, okay, so you can easily, if they yet to implement accrual accounting, so you can have a collaboration with IFAC to adopt this. Because definitely the country have to develop the capacity for them to adopt accrual accounting. Similarly in Malaysia, because there are the differences, but the good part of these IPSAS is basically they are drawn from IFRS. So I think in terms of language, okay, they're quite similar. It's just that there are modifications at the level of disclosure, okay, been basically a breach or been modified so that it be consistent with the public sector organizations. Okay. Have a look. Right, so now I move back to the PowerPoint. Sometime you have to just do as much as you can. Okay, now we move on to statements, okay, IPSAS 1, IPSAS 2 cash flow statements, consolidated financial statements, very similar to MFRS or IFRS. Okay, but on top of that, there are also accounting standards which is a bit unique. Okay, in the case of government, if you look at IPSAS 9, revenue from exchange transactions, so it's a separate standard. And then they also have, okay, PPE, investment property, so you can clearly see that these are basically from IFRS, because investment property is being popularized with the introduction of the IFRS. So it's also equally been adopted for public sector. Okay, and if you look at IPSAS 23, revenue from non-exchange transactions, so it's quite different, right? For the asset, for the revenue here. Okay, of course, at this point they don't have specific standards like what they have in the private sector, like revenue from customer as a separate standards. So I think still for the government to be more general in that sense, rather than a more stringent requirement as required under the revenue from customers standards. And okay, there are also impairment for non-cash generating assets. This one I'm not sure, is it similar or not similar to the private sector accounting? Anyway, so these are some differences. I think including, I think one more, yeah, IFSAS 24, presentation of budget information. Okay, so when we discuss on MPSAS later on, Malaysian Public Sector Accounting Standards, so these standards are also available at the Malaysian level. Okay, Malaysian under the AG Accountants General. So generally, budget information for private sector organizations, they don't share with their external users. But for the case of government entities, okay, it's quite different, because budget information is so important that they are dependent on budget allocation. Not only that, they are the managers also are accountable, okay, for the use of this budget allocation because they are public monies. So there are specific standards how to present this information in the financial statements. All right, now we move to accrual accounting in Malaysian public sector. Any questions? Oh, no question. All right, so we move on. Okay, can you see this? Right, can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So accrual accounting in Malaysian public sector, right? I think it was adopted as part of the public sector reforms. Part of this when it's consistent with government transformation program, economic transformation programs, and then last time we discussed about outcome-based budgeting, right? So it was introduced as I think being reinforced. I think the first adoption, I think the decision to adopt accrual was in 2007 or 2008, but then with I think 2013 or something, we'll see later on, that is being reinforced further so that it will be executed, will be implemented in a way. Okay. Right. So I think these are the mechanism by the government, in the previous government that introduced the new economic policy or new economic transformation programs. Okay, so they have this strategic reform initiative, public finance lab, so that where they develop the modules, and also the techniques. Okay. Benefits of accrual accounting. Design, I think we discussed at the Malaysian government level. Provide a more comprehensive and accurate picture of government's financial position. Okay, because I think they cover all full costs as well as all liabilities. Okay, even including commitments. Okay, being accounted for. Enhance the government transparency and accountability in its financial management and accounting system. Okay, including capitalizations of capital assets. Okay, so so this also can have that implication, and the fact that all debts, commitments are all be accounted in the face of financial statements. Okay, improve the government financial management and accounting system through good governance, and thus resulting value for money. Okay, so I think enhance accountability in that sense. Definitely with greater transparency. Okay, so it makes the managers be more cautious for them, because they can be scrutinized in the sense every expenditure which is capitalized, it can be seen with this part of expenditures, but more disclosures, then question can be asked, okay, that in terms of their management priorities, okay, can be reflected in the financial statements. Promoting efficiency and effectiveness of the government organizations by providing complete and comprehensive performance report and financial statements. Okay, so I think with the accrual accounting, it can promote full cost use of resources. I think that's what exactly accounting is, or economics. We are talking about full accounting for the full resources. Okay, and how these resources be allocated for various activities. Okay, and then with that, you can really assess efficiency and effectiveness. If it is the resources are only partially been highlighted, okay, with more results. Okay, it's just like in the private sector, isn't it? You understate, or the companies or the firms understate the expenses, and then with the given level of revenues, they can show higher profits, okay? And even if they wrongly capitalize their assets, okay, they can show higher return on investment. Okay, that is basically give wrong impression, okay, generally. So that's why good accounting, okay, try to minimize earnings management and all that, okay, is very useful to make sure the quality of earnings. Okay, similarly, in the government organizations, okay, where if they have accrual accounting, definitely, okay, will require, enable the government to report full costs. Of course, I mean, with limitation, right? So that's why good judgment, good competencies of accountants to develop a good accounting practice. That's the key, so that they can really demonstrate full cost with the good practice in accounting. Okay, provide better guidance for prudent financial management. Okay. All right. Now we look at implementation strategy for accrual accounting. Okay, in the case of Malaysian government. Okay, and of course, definitely. Okay, there are four factors here or categories. One is standard and policies. Okay, very clear. So there must be accounting standard and accounting policies. Law and procedures, okay, need to be amended as well. Okay, because we are talking about government entities. And unlike a government, because if you look at accounts, they are provided the provision, there are provision in the constitution itself. There are provision in the Financial Procedures Act, okay, and maybe with other treasury instructions and others. So all these need to be amended so that it become aligned and consistent with the accrual accounting. Okay, so human resource, okay, the capabilities of the accountants in the government, right? So if you look at human resource, basically the government, I think you're talking about this, okay, because for the, let's say, accountants in AG and all that, because they've been in a cash environment for many, many years. If you look at our independence, it's only what, 57, okay, it's around 60 years, isn't it? So within that, the environment that they're working in is basically cash environment. So you know how they can have these competencies adopting accrual accounting, okay, where sometimes judgment need to make the size. Okay, there are different requirements when we talk about recognition and measurement and disclosure using accounting standard under accrual accounting. So they, of course, they need to develop their skills and training. Process and technology, okay, in terms of information system, okay, and as well as accounting process, definitely they have to amend the chart of account, okay. If you want to put it in a very simple term, even chart of account would be amended, isn't it, from cash. Now, all assets, financial assets, physical assets, liabilities, okay, instead of being put under memorandum accounts, so there will be basically classified in GL, directly under general ledger, and as well as for the pensions or the financial statements. Okay, so if we look at the item there for standard and policies, developing basically adoption of IFSAS. They adopt IFSAS and then they convert that to become MPSAS. Okay, MPSAS here means Malaysian Public Sector Accounting Standards. And of course, they have to develop the relevant accounting policies. But in the case of implementation, also there are two stages. One is the adoption stages. Basically, they have to prepare for the full implementation. Okay, but now I think in the case of government, they are full swing in the implementing of the accrual accounting. Okay, with regard law and procedures, review and propose amendment of the Financial Procedures Act. Okay, so this will be at the Attorney General, and then will be presented to the Parliament. So the law is to be passed at the Parliament for its full implementation, including reporting of public accounts. Okay, so now public accounts will be named, I think it's already named as a financial, financial statements of the government, of the federal government, right? So there needs amendments of the law. Human resource, change management, development of human capital, engagement of accounting officers in accrual accounting implementation. I think, of course, the key will be their expertise, okay, for them to develop or to make judgment, okay, to account for the using financial accounting, accrual accounting. Right, processing technology, undertaking gap analysis between cash accounting and accrual, design and develop accounting system for accrual accounting. Of course, I mean, in this case, I think there is direct engagement, okay, of the AG. I think they are vendor for accounting standards, okay. I think all reputable vendor like Oracle, okay, SAP. I mean, those enterprise level accounting system, okay, been engaged to help the AG to develop the right accounting standards or accounting system. Okay, now we move on to the Malaysian Public Sector Accounting Standards, MPSAS. So the short form is the government or accountants in government, they call it MPSAS. Okay, IPSAS, MPSAS. Okay, MPSAS are accrual basis accounting standard issued by AG, okay, withdrawn primarily from IPSAS. An agreement with IFAC was signed on February 12, 2013 to adapt IPSAS to MPSAS. Okay, so we are talking about adaptation rather than word to word. I think definitely for all the standards, it's almost like word to word adoption. But there are also instances where, because if you look at the following point there, the only divergence are when IPSAS contradict with local legislation. In that situation, local legislation or local law should prevail. Okay, so there are instances, where IPSAS basically contradict with the local law, then local law will prevail as the main guidance to prepare for the accounts. And besides the accounting standard that have to be observed by public sector accounting entities in Malaysia other than government business enterprise, GBE. So in other words, GRC, okay, government-linked companies, they are not using PSAS because they use MFRS. Okay, you can see this, isn't it? Can you see or not?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Governance structure and process of drafting in PSAS. So I think there are many committees here or units under the AG, Accountants General Department. Okay, this one is a standard and policy units. Okay, of course in Malay because these are basically taken from AG website. Okay, they basically develop the draft, the PSAS draft, okay, based on the IPSAS. And with that, then they move on to the exposure draft. I think these are normal standard, normal procedures or process in issuing accounting standards. So once the draft is prepared, they will be sent out to all the stakeholders, in the form of exposure draft. Okay, so with exposure draft, basically the AG they're getting feedbacks, from accountants, from academicians, from public, mainly of course are all accountants. Even if they send, I think definitely for universities, we always receive. But for this MPSAS, maybe they engage certain experts. Whereas if it is MFRS, from time to time you can receive this exposure draft, from MSP, isn't it? To give the feedback before at the end, the council, the board will finalize the adoption. Okay, so there's also a steering committee to approve the MPSAS, and at the end they also get certification from IFAC. Okay, that's the process of adoption. I think that's why sometimes it's not easy to divert to be different from the original standards. Okay, I think generally the way I observe it, the behavior, the accountants general, they try to keep the original form of the standards, to be adopted in Malaysia. Okay, because I think we are part of the international community in terms of accounting standards, accounting reports. Okay, we try to be consistent with the international practice because we are talking about the confidence in the confidence and quality of the financial reports. Okay, to be used not only by Malaysian but as well as the international community as well. All right, so here conceptual framework of accrual accounting is provided in MPSAS 1, Appendix A. I think this is very important. If you look at the qualities or the characteristics of the accounting financial accounting and reporting here were very similar, I think, in the private sector as well, in the IFRS. Relevance, neutrality, faithful presentation, okay, timeliness, understandability, okay, fundamental qualitative characteristic and enhancing qualitative characteristics. But the end, of course, relevance and faithful presentation, these are apparently they consider that as fundamental qualitative characteristics. I mean, it's good for you to know this, okay? Of course, I mean, generally, if you ask accountants, they will follow strictly the standards, but these are basically providing the theoretical framework or conceptual framework for them to decide, okay, what is the best way to move forward. Of course, I mean, the standards is basically try to strike balance between what is good in theory, what is good, what is the best practice, at the same time, the level of practicability, practical, okay, for the implementing agencies or entities. Because sometimes the entire standard is too complicated, right? So the companies or the firms, or in this case, government agencies, they'll not be able to implement or to comply, okay? So these standards sometimes, okay, they have to take that into account as well. Okay, these are stages from 2013, 2016, okay, as an example, the adoption, various level, okay. So you can see that the adoption is not like one time because there are process by itself for adoption purposes, okay, where there is exposure draft and then at the end for adoption. And then if you look at 2016, okay, because sometimes I think in this case the emphasis is there. But when that basically the government start to prepare their financial statement based on accrual, okay? So if you look at 2016, they adopt MPSAS 33, where there is a first-time adoption. So in the kind of like transition, because there must be a transition from moving from cash accounting to accrual accounting. Okay, so because of change of process, the competency of the accountants, I think I just mentioned, with strategies of to implement the accrual accounting. All right, so you can see that with MPSAS as well as with the policy. Okay, these are the items. I think in terms of accounting standards, it's quite straightforward. Okay. I think the items in accounting standards, in this case, MPSAS, definition, recognition standards, measurement standards, as well as disclosure. At the same time, the accounting, the AG also, they implement accounting policy, somehow to a certain extent, because sometimes be more specific, okay, in certain accounting treatment. I think that will be laid out in the accounting policy. Okay, transition from cash to accrual. In Malaysia, accrual transition is managed by the Accrual Accounting Steering Committee. Okay, as mentioned, provision for accrual accounting transition in MPSAS provide government agencies with ample time to get accrual accounting system ready. Okay, I think particularly the accounting system, because they need to collect the data, right? Source of authority for the transition is MPSAS 33. Okay. Transition refers to the 3-year period when the government adopt one or more exemption in MPSAS 33 prior to full compliance with MPSAS. That's why if they adopt in 2016, that's why the expectation is the 3 years. So by this year, okay, 2020, that full accrual financial statement should be prepared. Okay, first-time adoption. A first-time adopter shall prepare and present an opening statement of financial position. Okay, so prepare opening statement. Okay, so of course the starting point will be the opening balance. The opening balance for all accounts using accrual accounting. On the date of adoption, accrual basis, the first-time adopter shall apply the requirement of MPSAS retrospectively. Okay, except required or permitted under MPSAS. Okay, third point, the first-time adopter estimates in accordance with MPSAS as that the date of adoption of MPSAS shall be consistent with estimate made in accordance with the previous basis of accounting, unless there is objective evidence that those estimates were inconsistent with the requirement of MPSAS. Okay, so I think it is basically those accounting policies, which is a cash basis accounting, definitely they have to make all the amendments. Right, I think these are the details. You can read this. Okay, some of it. These are areas where exemptions being provided. Exemption for fair presentation. I think fair presentation, I think one of the key areas will be fair value. So these are the areas that are given exemption. Investment property, PPE, biological assets, okay, financial instruments. Okay, sometime to develop the fair value, okay, will take some time. And number two, recognition measurement of non-exchange revenue. Okay, so also given for 3 years. Right, leases, contingencies, related party disclosure. Okay, given the exemptions for fair presentation. Right, there are also exemptions not affecting fair presentation. Okay, so these are the areas. Okay, including, if you look at number 3 there, measurement of asset acquired through a non-exchange transaction. Okay, fair. So what will be the standards, the policy? Fair value as deemed cost applied at the date of adoption, where historical cost information is not available. So I have to develop deemed costs. Okay, anyone can explain deemed costs? Right? Or nominal value? Nominal value of what? 1 ringgit. Is that? Okay, investment, fair value is deemed cost and date of adoption, but historical cost is not available. Okay, some of these. And okay, it's not applicable. Right, so you look at this, some scenario, okay, in terms of how to look at the accounting treatment. Okay, and at the same time, I think the government also, they apply fund accounting, in their, how they present, okay, the accounts as well as their financial statements. So look at this scenario, scenario A, recognition of asset at opening balance, okay, because I think that's a challenge, once they want to present the financial statements, of course, they must have opening balance. The PPE, total PPE consisting of 2 separate assets, asset A and asset B, are recognized as opening balance during the transition period from cash to accrual accounting. Okay. So asset A amounts to 150,000 is purchased by a responsibility center. Okay. And then financed through a general fund. Okay, I think you are very familiar with this term, isn't it? We talk about responsibility center, and then finance through general fund. So you get the idea. General fund is basically unrestricted fund. Asset B amounts to 75,000, is financed through a government trust account. Okay, I think we discussed about trust account as a restricted fund. And asset A has an opening balance of 150,000 and accumulated depreciation of 50, whereas asset B has opening balance, gross balance of 75, kind of expected, isn't it? Because the cost is 75,000 with the accumulated depreciation of 25. Okay, so very straightforward, but I think the most important is how these to be accounted in the government agency. In the private sector, I think, okay, you don't have this issue of a trust account, or fund account, whereas here it's given there. So instead of, okay, one, of course, they can just keep the same general ledger, but they have to account, because there are 2 types of account fund here. One is general fund, the other is government trust account. So for the asset A, because it's funding from general fund, so it will be accounted in the general fund book. Okay, debit PPE 150,000, credit accumulated depreciation, okay, and as well as the differences, they call it surplus, accumulated surplus under general fund amounting to 100,000. Okay, so it's very different than private sector. Well, most likely, I think you will account this in the statement of comprehensive income. Okay, or maybe changes in the equity, isn't it? Okay, whereas here is credit the accumulated surplus as general fund. Okay. For government trust asset under government trust account, okay, debit property, government trust account, right? So I think they just put different label. If you look at accounting code, same accounting code. I think this is just for example. Does that mean they will keep it a separate general ledger, or they will keep it the same with just different label? But since I think it's much better to keep them separate. Credit accumulated administration, government trust account, and credit accumulated surplus or deficit government trust account. Okay, so we must clearly see that the asset will be treated and reported under separate fund. Okay, so that's how different it is when you talk about government accounting. Okay, so we'll discuss on I think episode 1, episode 9. These are basically for this class. Episode 17, 23, 24, and 32. Right? For today, I think we just cover episode 1. Then for next class, we cover up to 9 to 24. Then in one more class, we cover 32. Right? So basically, 2 more classes for the standards. Okay, for episode 1, presentation of financial statements. These are, you can see this, federal government ministries. So the reporting entities, federal government ministries other than government business enterprise. Okay, so that's the policy that they are adopting here. The reporting entity is federal government ministries. So I would expect that, so every ministry, they have their own accrual-based financial report, annual reports, okay, where they have a separate financial statement for each ministry. And definitely you can expect consolidated financial statements. Okay, so the components, statement of financial position, financial performance, okay, all these things are basically similar in the private sector. Except that comprehensive income. Okay. Right, and then in terms of structure of accounts, still they maintain the same, right, as required under Constitution as well as Financial Process Act. Okay, consolidated revenue account, loan account, and also trust account. I think this will be okay if they want to account. So definitely, okay, it depends on how they're going to present it in the balance sheet. But most likely they will present as a consolidated financial statements. Okay, so these are these are examples. Okay, of the standards. Let me maybe just okay. I think in terms of items, okay, you can check in the standards, but it's very similar. Assets, current assets, non-current assets, okay, and maybe the item is a bit different where the receivables, okay, they also have items from tax and transfers, okay. Receivable, I think we discussed already, isn't it? Okay, the type of receivables. Since okay, we already discussed the account awam, the public account, right? Financial statements of the Malaysian government. Okay, have a look. What are the items under receivables? Okay, so these are basically all the recoverable receivables from various entities, governments, as well as state government. And if you look at non-current asset, okay, they have PPE, they have investment property, intangible assets. Okay, so you can clearly see that these are the MFRS, no, MPSAS. Okay, so liabilities. Can you read this? Of course, it's quite not clear. That's the way. Otherwise, you can check the accounting standards. So please download all these accounting standards, MPSAS 119, because it is in the website. Okay, where did I share with you the website for accounting standards for the Malaysian under the AG? Already done, isn't it? Class? Hello? Wow. Yes, so these are one website. I think I did share that in the previous class. Okay. So get your copy here, and I can also upload all this copy in the GC as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. So let me continue with the discussion. Okay. Are you with me, class? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. I think you need some assurance. Otherwise, very quiet. Right. Borrowing. Right. Now we move to look at the equity side. Okay. Look at the equity side. Okay. I think I share. Right. This equity section of a statement of financial position. This one is based on the manual. I think I did share the manual, isn't it? The accounting manual. Okay. Right. So if you look at the accounting there, the section, okay, net equity. So there is item accumulated surplus or deficit from general fund, right? So there also accumulated surplus or deficit under government trust account, okay, and other reserve. That will be on the equity side of the government entity. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of expectations that there are also source of fund that is basically counted under general fund, and also assets and liabilities will be accounted under trust account. So at this point, that is the presentation. Okay. Yes, because on the net equity side, okay, and definitely the borrowings and others, they will put under liabilities. So that will be on the equity. So clearly, I think they still maintain the use of fund accounting to account and also to present. But here definitely is consolidated. So, but by right at the same time, so all these fund need to be provided the financial statements. Okay, so these are financial performance, statement of financial performance. So you can see that revenue and expenses, this one is by sector or by function, they call it. Okay, so you look at the item there, the revenue, tax, fees, okay, fine, revenue from exchange transactions, okay. So there are also transfer they considered as what do you call it, revenue. So taxes and fees is basically revenue from non-exchange transactions. So we see that standard later. And then expenses, okay, by sector. So I think from here people can access, okay, what is the most important area of allocation were given the most. Right, on top of that, they have a surplus or deficit for the period, and then they are attributable to, so this section sounds like consolidated financial statement, where you have the controlling entity as well as minority interest. But later on, when how they going to show this, definitely if they have GLC consolidated in the financial statement, they may have minority interest here. Okay, so these are basically for companies, how they blend between companies and other government agencies. Okay, so definitely we have to wait for the actual reports to be presented. Then you have a more better idea. But now today, of course, these are basically what has been shown in the standards. Right, this one is by nature. Okay, these are MPSAs related to structure and size. Okay, these are basically about consolidated statement. I just highlight this, but it's not going to be discussed in detail. Okay. All right, so now we move on to opening balance strategy, challenges faced by the government. Okay, key challenges in data collection. Of course, now when they are basically in transition period, to develop the accounts based on the accrual accounting. Identification of assets. Okay, so asset which is no longer is there, but I think in terms of records, so how to categorize them, right? Data availability and completeness. Okay, I think if it is within 7 years, I think, definitely the source document will be kept. What about those information which is more than the period of statute of limitations, okay, more than 7 years, okay, where the government agencies basically can have that option to, to destroy the documents. That can pose challenges. Existence of assets, right? So maybe the asset in the fixed asset register, but it still exists. Okay, I think generally auditing will if they do internal audit, all this can identify. Legal versus a beneficial owner of assets. Okay, some accounting issues there. Okay, how to account. Number of stakeholders and measurement and valuation of assets. Okay, because if you look at valuation, sometimes it also a bit costly if you engage with the specialist valuer and others. Okay, so understatement of asset, same asset taken by few parties. Okay, it's possible because some government buildings or properties, there are multiple level of government also basically using the properties. Failure in obtaining the correct opening balance in time for the transitional period. All right, these are some challenges during the transition. Okay, so basically that's cover accrual accounting for the introduction. Right, I think I also can look at so these are the MPSAs. One of them also okay, the manual. Yeah, it's already there. You can yeah, it's already shared the manual. For this one is basically by the AG. Okay, you can have a look the manual how they basically the accounting side how to account based on the standards. Okay, so I think we'll discuss this again. Okay, these are the presentation of the equity as we discussed. Okay, so that's basically now the main guidance. Okay, how to present the equity. Right, so that's for the financial statements. Okay, financial performance. Okay, surplus by function. Yeah, so you can see that clearly. So the bottom side of the, as shown the standards, they're not going to put into reports, where there's a minority interest. It's quite difficult because that is basically consolidations of the GLC. Okay, I think you can have a look, go through the manual as well, for your more understanding of what we discussed. Okay, any questions? Otherwise, I will stop here. Is there anybody monitoring compliance to MPSAS? Yes. Okay, the Accountant General. Accountant General Department. Okay. And definitely once they use accrual accounting, right, then in terms of following the standards, the Auditor General also have a role later on. Okay, that they must audit based on the accrual accounting rather than cash accounting. Because monitoring here means the AG, the government agencies, okay, they have to prepare the reports and make sure they are compliant. We are talking about government agencies across the, all level, at the federal government and state, local government, okay, a massive number of institutions or organizations. But nowadays, I think quite possible, okay, with the use of all this electronic accounting, to standardize and monitoring. Okay, any other questions? Right, if no, then I will stop here. So I end this with wabillahi taufiq wal